Awesome. Well, thank you everyone again. I am Joseph Cole. I head up marketing with Glider AI. So today's webinar is obviously brought to you by Glider. We're a skill intelligence platform, and obviously we are featuring Fortrea, which is a leading clinical research enterprise. But I'm going to let Ali actually go into a little bit about that. But today's conversation is going to be centered around hiring under pressure, talent quality amidst high demand, high volume, and highly specialized roles. And by the way, we do have this survey. I am running some new research. I think I sent it to everyone who signed up for this webinar, but I'm also going to include it in the chat section. So if you don't mind, please do take that survey. We're going to have some amazing insights that we're going to share with everyone. So I'll share that with you momentarily. But again, thanks again for joining us. So let me set the stage. So first, we're going to go into intros and then jump into the topics listed here. So what are some hiring trends and challenges? Like, for example, with Ali, what are some of the highest demand roles and the hardest to fill roles that you have at Fortrea? Topic 2, we're going to go into balancing skill validation, fit for role, diversity goals, and a more efficient recruiting process. So how do you blend all of these challenges and goals together and obviously still meet your goals of hiring top quality talent? The last topic here is what in-house teams or talent acquisition teams like yourself, Ali, what are you looking for with your staffing partners? How do you work better together? And then obviously at the end, we're going to have a Q&A. So by the way, we want to make this interactive. Along the way, if you do have questions, make sure you put them into the Zoom questions box. We'll try to answer them in context to the conversation being had. Otherwise, at the end, we've got the Q&A. And if you like, we'll unmute you and you can ask the question of Ali directly. So without further ado, Ali, it's my pleasure to welcome you here. You're the leader of talent acquisition and people experience. That's what the PX stands for at Fortrea. So why don't you share a little bit about yourself, your background, what is Fortrea, and maybe what are some passions and maybe even an icebreaker like your favorite cheese?
Ooh, favorite cheese. Okay. I'll think about that one. Yeah. So Joseph, so thanks a lot. And, hello to the audience attending today. So Fortrea, we're a fairly big company. So I'll start with my disclaimer. So, I'm an employee of Fortrea. My thoughts and, comments today are my own. I'm not representing Fortrea, but I'm excited to be at Fortrea, and we've got a really good team. And so I appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about what we're doing and who I am. So for me, so my name's Ali. I've had the pleasure of been given the opportunity for over a decade now to make meaningful connections across the life sciences industry. So, I've worked with pharma, biotech, med device, contract development, manufacturing organizations, most recently a diagnostics company, which was a first for me, and now at a global clinical research organization. So, my focus has always been supporting recruitment, talent acquisition globally, and been given the opportunity to lead all of what is our corporate function recruiting globally at Fortrea. And so do that with an amazing team of partners across the globe. And we're supporting essentially hiring for a newly spun clinical research organization for more than 63 countries that we operate in. And so Fortrea, maybe I'll touch on that first, and I can mention a little bit about myself. But for those of you who aren't familiar, LabCorp purchased a company called Covance about 8 years ago. So Covance was a global clinical research organization supporting drug development activities for, again, pharma, biotech, med device companies across the globe. Were acquired by LabCorp. They've been, one company for about the past 8 years. And then most recently, there was a decision to take what is our pure clinical research components of the business and spin that out to be a 20,000 person, $3 billion startup. So I joke a bit about the startup piece, but the reality is we have a new C-suite, we've got some new energy, a new brand. And so it's been really fun to see, how we can kind of create something new from what we had before and expand on the successes of the past and really focus in this clinical pharmacology service space full service and FSP model, clinical delivery. And then also we have a post-marketing and enabling service technology component to the business that we can support our clients with. So exciting time. We spun and became a public company on NASDAQ, FTRE, if you want to buy some stock, which I'm not an expert, but I think it's interesting, on July 1st of 2023. So we're, 4 months in and having a lot of fun. And for myself, so again, my background, I started with a consultancy called Aerotech. So, global recruiting firm, spent several years there supporting our life sciences business, and then had the opportunity to move to one of our clients, which was a contract development manufacturing organization, and get some exposure to what it is to be on the talent acquisition side or part of an in-house TA team. And so I've continued to do that over the past several years across the US, Europe, and Latin America. And then beyond that, I would say, the reason I probably have kept this global thing going and continue to try and experience as much of the world as I can is, love travel, love learning about new cultures, new people. My lovely wife of 14 years and I enjoy cooking, bringing on different recipes that we find and taste throughout our travels. Learning languages. I do speak Spanish fluently. English, I'm okay. And then there's a few other languages I'd love to get better in. But that's always a ton of fun, and I get the pleasure of having a global team now. So constantly learning new words, new phrases, and having kind colleagues that are willing to put up with my accent when I try them. And then work with a couple amazing nonprofit organizations. So I've been part of the board for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation in North Carolina for several years, and then a couple other small nonprofit organizations that just give me a chance to give back. And while I'm probably just adding confusion and hassling all the people that I partner with on those nonprofits, I like to think I'm able to make an impact in my own way. So,
awesome. Yeah. Well, Ali, thank you so much. Truly an incredible background, and then obviously years of experience in talent acquisition. So I'm going to move forward. It's not too interesting about me because we're here to talk about you. But I'm, again, Joseph Cole. I head up marketing and research at Glider AI. We're a skill intelligence platform, so we help talent acquisition and staffing firms and HR and hiring teams and recruiters screen, assess, interview, and hire talent at scale, whether that's full-time, contingent tech, for non-tech or non-tech roles, basically for any industry. So let's get into business, right? So topic one, hiring trends and challenges. So doing a quick Google search, right, or even asking ChatGPT, you'll find a slew of challenges facing TA, HR, and hiring teams. But in general terms, right, you'll see that there's a lot of consistent challenges. And that's what I'm seeing across the board here, right? There's challenges with finding quality talent. So there's always a skill gap. There's a lot of job market uncertainty. Even though there's low unemployment, there's still the psychology of like, oh, I'm not sure what's going to happen, especially of late. Then there's also concerns about recruiter job security, right? Like, will I still have a job? I know a lot of TA friends and colleagues have, unfortunately, had, unemployment, recently because of the uncertainty in the market. And then, of course, the big elephant in the room is AI, automation, and all these cost control measures. So, just setting the stage there, Ali, I've got a few questions for you. And again, the audience, if you have questions for Ali, please make sure you type them in the questions box. What challenges are you seeing from a macro standpoint as a TA leader?
Yeah, I think, let's see, there's quite a bit, going on right now, right? We've got geopolitical challenges. We've got, the movement of talent, being able to identify the right talent for the type of organization we are. So we're in a unique space, right? We're 20,000 people, so it's not 10 of us in a room, but we have this opportunity to do something different. And then we're really running forward as almost like a startup company. So, being able to identify individuals who are open to taking on the challenge, right, of coming into a big company that has things that they can change, new policies and procedures we need to put in place now that we've separated ourselves from LabCorp. Thinking in a corporate way, right, in a global organization, but then, needing to move at speed because we've got a lot to accomplish in a short time. And some of that is standing up, again, our processes, our systems to be Fortrea as we extract ourselves and move away from LabCorp over the next 12 months. As far as some of the macro kind of items I've seen, and I was reading a Gartner article the other day, I think generative AI and AI in general, right? It's really interesting. I've been playing with it. I've been using it. We ended up connecting because we evaluated Glider as a platform and how it might be able to help us as a company, specifically with fraudulent applications, but also how do we, start to close the gap between right hiring for experience, let's say education, what have you, to skills. Making sure that when we're looking at talent that we're trying to bring in, can we assess those skills in the right way without bias to continue to attract the right people to make our business successful. So I think generative AI and how you can use that right in this fashion is a big one. I think with AI, there's new regulations coming out, right? Companies, especially like ours, we need to be vigilant in terms of what that liability is, what the risk is. How can AI impact our environment and what we do, and the safety, right, of our data and the information that we gather and we're providing to our clients that are potentially developing life-saving therapies. So wanting to get to know generative AI and how we can use these tools and implement them and take advantage of them, but then also being a bit hesitant around, well, what's going to change over the next 12 months in terms of the regulatory landscape. The White House just released, right, its guidance in terms of AI. That's going to continue to evolve. So how does that impact companies? What do we have to do to be vigilant around how we're implementing it from a cybersecurity standpoint? Keeping an eye on what the risk could be. If these tools, right, were to, I don't know, attack our systems, kind of thing. And then also, we do have partners, right? We have partners in terms of being able to continue to do our business, around the globe in terms of delivering clinical development and drug development, support for our clients. And so working with vendors, understanding how those vendors interact with our ecosystem, onboarding vendors, leveraging vendors' technologies, we do need to be a bit more cautious about that and have kind of like a heightened sense of compliance and review, to make sure that we're doing the right things and that they're going to be sustainable if we're going to invest in that in the short term. So I hope that answers the questions, but it'd probably be
No, no, it does. It does. Thank you. How about are there any challenges that are a little more unique to Fortrea? And I apologize. I feel like I'm saying the name wrong, but specifically to your role as a TA leader at the company.
Yeah, so Fortrea is right. So it's forward, trial, ease.
There you go.
So you got it. But I mean, we're a life sciences company, we're a services organization. Our ability, right, to stay compliant, and protect our data, protect our patients is critical to what we do. So I think in the space of whether it's clinical research or even pharma, biotech, right, the life sciences space as a whole, there's these increased kind of compliance, concerns, right, and need to maintain that based on the regulatory bodies we're working with. And then, yeah, the risk of something going wrong, for us is, it's not good. It's there's going to be a person downstream of that that's going to be impacted. Whether it's, hey, we've done something that has caused a clinical study to be delayed, several months or years. Now you've got a patient, that's not going to get a life-changing therapy potentially for their disease state. And then, as we're moving folks through those studies themselves, if we can't adhere right to the right processes and practices, and we can't manage our vendors to do the same, that could create a lot of risk and exposure for us and our clients. So I'd say, those are probably the big things that come to mind, just knowing when I'm operating day in and day out, I've got to ensure that the people we hire are mindful of that. And as we think about, what's important to us and the partners that we work with, they recognize that that's a nuance to our company.
Right. Makes sense. And then, obviously skill is a big factor here in this equation, but then how does AI play a role in your role specifically, if that makes sense?
Oh, AI is definitely new. Like I would say in terms of like, how are we leveraging AI day in, day out? I mean, it's probably the things that hopefully most people are doing in the recruitment space, just saving time, right? And energy around drafting a job description, creating touch points, for our candidates, asking it questions, right? Like, what are the macro trends in recruitment right now we're facing? It'll spit out an answer to you pretty quick. So I think there's a lot of efficiencies that we're gaining through AI, just kind of from a day-to-day standpoint, but we haven't implemented it fully in terms of tools and technology today, that are impacting how we operate. But it's more, educating, like, I guess I'm spending my time as a leader in TA, educating the wider organization on like, what are things you can do and how can you leverage it? How
Yep.
can you use some of this in your day-to-day life? How can you work smart, not hard in a lot of different situations? And so that's taking time because we also want to make sure that we're not, giving kind of free reign, right, to download some of these tools or use them on the websites. Because if you are inputting information that could be proprietary or, using people's personal information, that's not good. So it's more of an education probably stage, right, in our evolution as a company right now.
Excellent. I saw a study from Employ there, and hopefully that's the right name for them, but like they are the holding company, I guess, for different ATS providers like Lever, JobVite, Jazz, not JobVite, but Jazz, Lever, I forget the others that are within that network. But in general, the study found that TA leaders like yourself are actually feeling a lot more optimistic about the use of AI more than they are fearful for it about taking their job now. I think people are beginning to slowly embrace that, but obviously there's a needed caution, right? So I'm going to jump into the next question here, and well, not the question, but I'm going to share my screen again. So obviously we went through the trends and challenges, so thank you for sharing that. So topic number 2 is skills-based hiring. It's one of the biggest trends that we're seeing from a company standpoint, at least at Glider. Everyone's pushing for skills-based hiring. I'm sure we all understand the benefits of skills-based hiring, like attracting a more diverse talent pool, improving employee engagement, identifying, who has the skill to do a job. But I think the reality is different from what the theory is, right? It's harder to put it into practice. So a few questions here for you in the world of skills-based training at Fortrea. What are some of the skills that are in highest demand for you?
It's a lot, actually. So we, again, as we spun out, we brought a lot of folks over with us, but we're also, looking at new ways to show up as a clinical research organization on the global scale. So, we have lots of departments that are growing, bringing in new leadership. I would say that, I don't know if I could tell you, hey, we're having a hard time finding accountants or we're having a hard time finding cybersecurity experts. I think it's more having a hard time finding folks who, have the skills and experience to be successful, and then also are going to be the right fit for the culture and what we're trying to build. So, that's the piece in my mind that recruiters are always going to have to be a part of, this effort, because AI is doing a great job, right, in terms of sourcing, right? You can use some of these tools now. I mean, LinkedIn's got it built in where it'll prompt you and say, hey, these folks have the background, right, and the keywords that you're looking for. I think that when it comes to assessing, so maybe doing testing, for certain skills, math skills, coding skills, these are things that AI is going to be able to help with really quickly. Delivering answers to questions from candidates, those are things it can help with. And then like paperwork and onboarding, right, from an AI standpoint. But being able to evaluate, someone going to come into an organization, again, that's across 63 plus countries, 20,000 people, moving fast, revamping, redoing a lot of the things that we had done before, stay engaged, be able to keep their teams on the right track, not go down a bunch of rabbit holes when there's definitely things that we need to accomplish in the short term. That's challenging, and that is a skill to work in that type of environment. So it's probably less, we're struggling with finding X, types of candidates, and more so, making sure that we've got our brand out there and our message on who we are, and that people that are coming to us and want to join us, recognize that, right, and feel comfortable and feel like they have the right visibility into what they're getting into.
Interesting. So it's not just the hard skills that you're evaluating, but also, soft skills from, cultural fit through communication and other aspects, I would assume, right?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. What are some of the roles that you're looking for? Like, what are the most highly sought after skill? I should probably reframe it to that.
I mean, as a company, right, we're a clinical research organization. So I would say, within that space, so clinical research associates, data managers, biostatisticians, researchers, medics, um, all of these things we're going to continue to hire for because that's what we do to deliver, the needs of our clients. And then the corporate side that I support is there's a lot of new there. So bringing on, and identifying talent across the globe for cybersecurity, is an organization that we're building out. AI and machine learning, trying to add, let's say, that next nuance to, what we can do as a company and how we can provide right expanded offerings and technologies to our clients. So folks in the kind of user experience space, AI, prompt engineering, data management and integration. These would be things that we're absolutely looking for, and we need really good talent to do that well. Because I was going to say before, unique to, let's say, a clinical research organization, we don't have a product. We do have a segment of the business that has a technology, and product delivery piece to it, or enabling services team. But by and large, people are our product. So it's all about talent, and being able to work in these clinical studies, being able to work with patients, being able to work with clients, project manage in a really complex environment. And so, being able to do that is important. And so people are, critical to us being successful. And then I think having the technology right around it to protect the house, our clients' data, and then create new ways of like packaging that data up and creating insights is the areas that are most interesting for us right now.
Excellent. Do you have any data about how many roles that you're trying to fill and how quickly?
Yeah, well, I don't have great data points just because we've been around for about 4 months. So I don't know
Yeah.
if I can say like, hey, Fortrea does X every year or hires this many people, but we've probably been averaging a little bit above 10% in terms of turnover. If you kind of look back at lab core drug development to us, so which I think is pretty good. And we're 20,000 employees, so you can do the math and say we're probably hiring a couple thousand folks a year, just through that turnover and attrition. And then we're probably still settling in terms of the dust from the spin itself. So expansion will come, but right now, we'll be working towards keeping everybody engaged, making sure that we've identified the opportunities that we have. And then I would say, in terms of hiring, it's probably a couple thousand people a year. And how quickly we'd like to hire people, it depends on the leader you ask. I think everybody on this call, right? If you're in this space, it's yesterday. We need folks to join already. But we really target, let's say, a 60 to 90 day time to fill, if you will, from a metric standpoint for the company.
Excellent. Thank you. What advice would you give others in TA, HR, or even staffing firms that are looking to deploy a skills-based hiring type strategy?
Oh, I don't know if I'd be the expert in giving advice on that. I think it's a really interesting opportunity, right? To basically think about, as an employer, right? How are we going to rethink our approach to talent? Because it's changing. And so, my advice would be, one, learn some of these tools and what they do, right? Meet with the Glider AIs of the world and understand how they're, impacting skill-based hiring and some of the things that they can do to make that easy and provide really good questions, right? And assessments around how you evaluate that. But, even for us, we're absolutely going through the evolution of, we know the type of talent we need. We obviously have job descriptions that talk about minimum requirements of experience and education, et cetera. But I don't know if we've figured out how to extrapolate what those specific skills are and turn that into something in practice. So I think for the other TA folks out there, would love to hear any advice and how you approach that. Whether it's kind of pick a category or a business unit or a group of skill sets and work towards making those defining right what those skills-based assessments would be to know that you can hire the right person based on skills alone. And then I think for some of the staffing firms out there, that's what's really interesting for me is, advising, because of the scope that they have in terms of looking at lots of different organizations and maybe what the best practices are. Are there things we should be doing if we want to move to more of a skills-based a way of identifying, attracting, and onboarding talent?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. It's truly a way for, I guess, staffing firms, right, to transform their relationship with you, being that strategic advisor on, here's the type of skill you should actually be hiring for, not necessarily looking at some of those more, those traditional, background metrics like, excuse me, what school you went to. Rather, do you actually have the skill to deliver on this? And it might help support some of your, your recruiting KPIs.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. So we're going to have our new head of artificial intelligence machine learning join us Monday, which is really exciting. And I was tasked with identifying this person. So we did have a partner that we worked with, and I haven't asked them if I can use their name, so I'll keep it confidential. But we had a partner agency that we worked with to help us identify talent. And I can tell you, as I started the exercise of going out, right, and talking to really qualified people around the globe, have this background, and they did as well. I ran across all kinds of super smart people in artificial intelligence space. I mean, just really smart, really creative, successful individuals at all levels of experience, who had worked with all different sizes of organizations. The challenge was you've got all these really smart people that do all these really smart things. How does that translate into our environment? So, we're a clinical research organization, we're global. We've got, big ticket items that we'd like to see happen from an artificial intelligence machine learning standpoint, especially around our data, and how we support our clients and how we deliver data back to them that can provide insights around safety and efficacy of a drug product. If nobody, the people that I was talking to, if they hadn't necessarily been exactly in that environment, and worked for one of our competitors, it was hard to identify, would you be successful here? I think there were some things that, okay, if you've never managed, a large organization, it'd be a learning curve for you to come into our organization because we are fairly sizable and we're, again, across pretty wide geography. But beyond that, I needed our partner, let's say, to advise and say, listen, the people that are doing this work, maybe in different types of companies or industries, here's the things that they're good at. Here's what they can bring to the table. So although they haven't worked for another global clinical research organization, here's why I think this can's interesting. And here's why I think they'd be successful in your environment. And those insights were really valuable because otherwise, I learned as I went and I talked to people, but that's a great example of there's lots of really interesting, smart people who's going to be super successful in our environment. And, I was fortunate to have somebody I could bounce ideas off of that, specifically focuses in that space and could advise.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So I'm going to jump into the next topic here. And this is where I think we're going to get a lot of engagement. I know a lot of the folks who are joining us here today are from a variety of different staffing firms. So hopefully everyone's getting some really great insight from Ali here today, which I think we are. So by the way, I'm running some new research. It's going to be launched in 2024. And here's some initial data. I put the links in the chat or the question box. So anyone in the audience, feel free to take it. Love your input. But what's interesting, and it's a nice transition, I suppose, is that the initial data that we've gathered, and these are all from enterprise TA leaders like yourself, one of the biggest challenges they're facing, at least, and the place that they're wanting to lean on from their staffing and recruiting partners is quality talent. So, based on what you're saying, that skills-based hiring is, probably a key aspect coupled with AI and skill assessments to really help identify who those people are. But, really the topic here is, what do you need from your staffing partners or recruiting partners? So I'm going to stop sharing and then I'm going to jump into a few questions. And again, the audience, if you have any questions directly for Ali, please definitely put it into the questions box. This is your opportunity now. But what expectations in general do you have for your staffing firms or staffing partners or independent recruiters that you work with?
Yeah. There's table stakes, right? Like, I think it's open and honest. Like I have to, anybody we're going to partner with, we have to know that they're going to have the same level of integrity as we do. So that's kind of a given. And I would hope that that's always the case. But, I'd specifically look for that because, it is a partnership. When we think about our partner network that we do have today, it's something that is evolving, and we're looking at it now that we're Fortrea. And so I think, it's going to change over the next year or so as we define what are our needs and where do we feel like we need external support. And so from a partner network standpoint, those organizations that we rely on and we trust and know and like, there's that open, honest feedback and communication. So I need that external feedback to understand what the market looks like. What are the things that we should be doing that maybe we're not. I had somebody look at our careers page the other day, and we have, for let's say all of our technology positions, the category is IT. And somebody said, well, you're hiring, data science group and artificial intelligence group. You might want to change the way this is phrased or add different components to it. Maybe it's under technology and you have those different segments so that candidates, as they go to your careers page, like that's what they're looking for. That's how we're advertising it. That's great feedback. We don't need organizations to just send resumes to us. There's not a ton of value in that. We can identify profiles and we can post jobs and get candidates flowing to us just as they can. Where it comes down to it is, expecting, let's say, one of our agency partners to provide a candidate and articulate, like, why is that person going to be the right fit? So, we would have given you the opportunity to meet with our leaders to understand what the role is, what the need is, answer any questions around, culture, environment, challenges. Hopefully, again, that partner comes with good questions to make us think about things that we didn't think about ourselves when it comes to what good looks like. And then when you're sending those potential candidates over, it's articulating, here's maybe why the skills that this person has is going to make them effective in your environment, even though they didn't just come from a competitor. Hey, here's some of the things that your competitors are doing and you're not, or you are doing this and we think it's really interesting and innovative. You should do more of it. So I think, just having that feedback, having that support, from our partners is really important, because for me, ultimately, they're an extension of our brand. So we also want them effectively out, externally facing, right? As they're talking to dozens and millions, hundreds of people on our behalf, actually creating a picture of what somebody would be getting into if they decided to join a Fortrea, for example. So, we don't want folks painting a different picture than what the reality is, because that's never going to work either.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then I think, the geographic support, right? We're a global company. So, it's really hard for us to partner, I think, with organizations that maybe are, not global in nature, or don't have, partners in other geographies that we can lean on, because that's what we're going to need. So having a partner that can only do one thing in one geography is a bit tough, because while they can focus on one thing, which I like, right? Being specialized, being an expert in that space, having either global understanding or at least, having the mindset that they can understand that that's a cultural impact for us by, working with folks all across the world is really important.
Yeah, no, really good insight, and something that I'd love to unpack a little bit, because obviously when you're hiring candidates, one of the key aspects is fit. How do you determine fit or cultural fit with your agency or recruiting partners? Like, what do you look for in them that shows that they're the right fit for you, beyond like understanding the requirements of the job?
I ask candidates a lot what they think about the agency. So, if I'm speaking to a candidate, right, that was presented by an agency, I'm always curious to what their experience has been. And, if their experience has been, that's a data point for me. If they don't know who the agency is, they just happen to send the resume over without even talking to the person, that's a data point for me. So, I think the candidate experience, which is super important for us, and we want to create something that's really interesting and also fits who we are as a company, is equally as important for the partners that we work with, to be able to provide that in the right way. And again, as an extension of our brand.
Yeah, no, that's good feedback. I saw a study, I forget who it was from, but there's now, with the job market changing a little bit, it used to be that candidates would ghost recruiters more than the staffing or the recruiter, right? Now it's the opposite, where recruiters are now ghosting candidates, not offering feedback more and more. So obviously that feedback loop is critical, especially for you as a brand, to make sure that there is kind of like that closed loop in the communication. I don't know if you've had any of that happen or any stories, but I thought it
Yeah.
was an interesting change in dynamics.
It's unfortunate, and I have had that feedback a bit, especially recently. I think, again, they're an extension of our brand, so especially if they're working on a role for us and they have a candidate process, and we always are going to do our best to provide really specific feedback back to the candidate or the agency partner that we have, and our expectation is they're going to feed that back to that individual, because at the end of the day, even though the agency may have pulled them into the process, they knew they were meeting with Fortrea, for example. So yeah, super important. And then I had the experience a couple months ago. There's a post about me on LinkedIn where I got a shout out because I called somebody back. I was hiring for my team, and I called this individual back and told him, hey, you didn't get the job. Here's why. It was great meeting you. I'd love to stay in touch, but we made a decision to go forward with another candidate. And that person, unfortunately, had just been part of, 6, 7 processes. And I was the only person that called them back to tell them they were out. you know
Yeah.
and I was a bit surprised that that's the case. I mean, this is somebody who pretty experienced, right? Not I mean, it doesn't matter if they're entry level, if they're a senior, if they're a associate, or they're a vice president. You should always be closing that loop. But I mean, I got a specific shout out, just for calling back and doing what I expect, or what I would say is my job, right, as a talent acquisition professional.
That's awesome. So related to this, what are some KPIs or metrics that you look for when you're working with your staffing or recruiting partners?
Hmm. Yeah, so there's traditional metrics, right? Time to fill, time to start, success in placements. So we want an organization, right, that's going to be successful if we engage them on certain positions. But again, there's probably more soft metrics, than hard ones, in my opinion, because I'm not expecting any of your agency partners to be 100% from a hit rate standpoint. Like, people are a tough product, if you will, to, and I say that jokingly, but to move. And so, if we have an agency partner that's working on a role for us and they're struggling, or they're providing candidates, right, that aren't the right fit, or they're not being successful in placing somebody, that's okay. But why, right? Or are they working with me to say, hey, your process, right, your leaders, maybe the way you're engaging these candidates is causing the candidates to want to fall out of the process. Like, that's really important feedback, because I'd like to help with that, as in my role, as well as my colleagues. Or, we can't find this type of talent in the industry at the price, that you're offering. So here's the things you got to flex on if you actually want to fill this role. That feedback's really important too, because we're not just going to tell somebody we'll figure it out. Again, we want to get the right talent, that's going to be excited about our environment, the leaders that they're going to work with, the colleagues that they're going to partner with. And so, we want to get that feedback from them as well.
Thank you for that. So when you're evaluating your partners, obviously there's the cultural aspect as well. What do they need to do to earn your business? I mean, they could wine and dine you and, buy you presents and, whatever, things that you have on your
Right.
Amazon
I'm a
list,
size
right?
large. I like dry fit, polos, and no, I'm joking. Yeah. No, I think, it really is, again, providing some of those insights. So there was a book I read a long time ago called The Challenger Sale, and it was around selling skills, right? But it talked about, identifying the need, right? Understanding what the client's struggling with, but then going beyond that, right? To challenge them to think about, did you know that this is happening in your industry? Did you know that this company is doing X that is having them be more successful when it comes to attracting the right talent, or filling the roles more quickly? Here's some benefits that have started to become really popular amongst your colleagues, or your peer organizations, or your competitors, that camps really like. Those are the things that, if you can bring that to me, I think is really interesting. um, Again, there's lots of agencies out there, and I think anybody in the call knows that. I mean, I don't know the stats anymore, but there's a new one every day, and that's fine. But I think being able to understand our business, our space, some of the nuances to the life sciences space around compliance and risk, the globality of what we do, and being cognizant of that as well, is important when approaching me. So, I need to know that, yeah, they've been thoughtful about wanting to talk to us, and they also have the capabilities, right, to deliver on what some of our needs are. And there's some research that they can do right before they send me a note. And it's pretty obvious the ones that don't do that. So
Yeah.
we don't manufacture any products here at Fortrea. So if you reach out to me and say I've got this great manufacturing engineer we think would be amazing for your company, it's falling on deaf ears. So
Yeah.
some of those things I think are yeah, interesting. But in terms of approaching me, like I'm always open to networking. I think there's a lot of really amazing and smart people in our industry, and I've been fortunate to get to know a lot of them over the years and continue to partner with them or stay connected and from a personal or professional standpoint. So I'm always open to having a chat and meeting folks and get to know what they do and what their skill sets are and what their experience is. But we can't work with every partner out there. And then again, those partners need to ideally understand our business, our space, and be able to provide some insights and feedback that we can't find on our own.
So beyond doing your homework, what is a put off for you? Like, obviously they gotta make sure that they're looking at your job descriptions or the open job recs, and they're not setting things like a mechanical engineer when you're not like creating an actual product. Or so like, what are some of these things that they shouldn't do?
I think just being mindful, like there's a lot of times where like let's sticking on this staffing agency piece, as a salesperson, right, for a staffing agency, and I've been there. You're cold calling into leaders, you're trying to get leaders to kind of help navigate you to, let's say, me or our procurement organization to get you signed up and get a contract in place. That's fine. Like I don't want anybody to stop doing business or trying to get business. But at some point, if you do talk to me and I'm like, great, well, listen, I'm the person. Here's the things we'd be looking for. Here's the timeline. If we can speak again at this point, right now, there's no need, there's no interest in maybe onboarding you. And we'll have folks that go off that call and then just keep doing what they're doing when really it all just loops back to me anyways. And so not only is that a waste of their time, it starts to just become noise. So, I'll have a leader that keeps sending me a note, hey, these folks that you talked to the other day, they just keep reaching out to me. So I would say, yeah, don't be hesitant to do your job and try and get business from us. I don't mind that at all. But if we do have a conversation and you're connected to the right person, I would say those outreach notes and those interests in connecting with some of our leaders should really be from an informative standpoint, so that you get to know our business more and more. You understand what our brand is. You understand what it would look like if you were to work with us. But continuing to poke at them to see if they'll give you a position to work on or put a contract in place, you're just spinning your wheels, and then it ends up coming back to me. I'm like, feel like I just talked to this person and gave them some good direction. So for me, yeah, that's something that just takes up my time and I don't love, but what I do enjoy again is folks that reach out to me, and if they're patient, and give me a little bit of time, I'd love to meet with them and have a conversation. So I hope that helps.
Yeah. How was the recruiting organization set up at Fortrea? Like, who do you roll up into? And
Yeah. So we're part of the human resource organization. So we report into our chief administrative officer. So Fortrea actually has an individual named Dave Cooper who is a rock star, and he's supported HR and talent acquisition. And so instead of actually a CHRO, we have what's called a CAO, so chief administrative officer. And then I have colleagues that live right in different geographies. So we have a leader in Asia Pac, we have somebody over Europe and EMEA, LATAM, and then North America. And then my role is a bit global just because of the corporate functions I support. So there's other folks, beyond me. And then I've been tasked with supporting, what is our partner network? What does that look like, as we move into 2024 and beyond?
yeah, how was your, and this is a question from the audience, how was your team itself structured?
Um, that's a good question. I mean, well, I guess to answer it, so yeah, like I've got a team that's global, so sitting in different geographies, and they support the functions that roll up into corporate. So sales, marketing, finance, IT, HR, legal, procurement, quality, contracts. I'm probably forgetting something, but each of them have their own expertise, but they also, similar to most in-house talent acquisition teams, are a bit of generalists as well. So we support a lot of different areas. And going back to why we do value our partner network, I can't know everything. I've been doing this for a long time in a lot of different geographies with a lot of really cool companies, and supported a lot of different skill sets. But by no means am I an expert in everything. So, I mean, I shared my experience learning about artificial intelligence and machine learning. And so that's where, our partners can provide that really specific expertise that we may not have. But as far as how my team's set up, yeah, crossing different time zones so that we can support our stakeholders, right, in those various geographies. And then we specifically own all those departments that I mentioned in terms of recruitment support.
Awesome, thank you. Another question is around the type of hiring, right? So as we shared earlier, we do a lot of we support a lot of contingent staffing programs as well as a full-time or direct. Is that all within your group, or how is that structured? Is there a difference, or does it go through like procurement, or is that all through the talent acquisition org?
Yeah, I would say, being really transparent, it's in flux. So, we had a program with LabCorp in terms of our contingent labor program that was set up in a certain way. That's what we're doing now. So we've actually just, we're continuing getting that support, let's say, for the next through 2024. But we have the opportunity to design that differently for ourselves. So we already are looking at, what should our contingent labor program be comprised of? Do we have a tool in place? Do we have a master service provider? So those are still questions that we have. And then, from a permanent placement standpoint, that'd be working, directly with me and my colleagues across the globe. And, we do have a network, right, that we need to make sure people are onboarded onto and approved before we work with them. But they are two different, let's say, areas. But all of it would still, go through talent acquisition for the most part. And then the contingent labor program is definitely a little more close to our sourcing procurement company organization, and compliance and legal, et cetera. So there's a little more risk, right? We're hiring contractors that are full-time Fortrea employees, and in our environment, we want that scrutiny and we need that oversight to be successful. And then on the direct placement side, it's just a different engagement because ultimately Fortrea employees, so we can work a little more directly through a different vehicle for that.
Excellent. This is more of a question for me, but it's we had a webinar previously with another TA leader like yourself, Phil Haynes from Amplitude, and they're a technology company. And one of the interesting things that he shared was in this world of AI and all of these changing technologies, really redefining everyone's role, especially even TA, is do you see TA as a discipline changing its value prop in the organization, right? Does it expand its role into other areas? Now that AI can do a lot of like the outreach and qualifications in some ways, right?
Yeah, no, I absolutely see. I mean, HR in general, right, becoming having a seat at the table, right? And this isn't just recent. I think it's over the past few years that's absolutely been the case. You see the CHRO role really being a valued partner to the business and where that business goes. And I think that's going to continue to happen. So as we leverage technology to make our roles more efficient, some of those pieces that probably are keeping people busy day in and day out from an activity standpoint starts to dwindle. And so where else can we inject, what we do well, and how can we impact the business in a different way? That is going to be something we need to continue to think about and involve with. And for us, it's almost creating more talent acquisition leaders, across the company. We've got to give everybody tools, to be successful, right, for their own departments. In terms of, I'm a leader, I want to have a network, right, of professionals that if we were to expand or I had a need on my team, I can reach out to. And talent acquisition should be equipping our leaders with tools and tips and tricks and process in terms of being able to do that well. So I think we're going to continue to be able to bring insights, right? And I think from an AI standpoint, we're probably going to be, apart from maybe IT, right, and technology, well, we'll see this implemented the quickest, and be used in a way to improve efficiencies and change the business, right, in terms of how we bring on talent. So I think we're going to be an organization that provides some really good data points, to the rest of the company around, how can this AI revolution, make sense for us. So I like it.
Interesting. Sorry, please go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I like what he said, and I agree. I think I'm getting involved in more things than I had in the past. I mean, part of it's because maybe we're unique in terms of we spun out. We've maybe lost some talent, right? That was doing a certain function in talent acquisition. Now we've people raising their hands, right, to do more things around, our partner network, our processes, onboarding, TA operations. But in general, the business is looking at us to figure out like, hey, how do we hit our goals from a talent standpoint, effectively? So
Yeah.
fun.
So I think we've got time for one more question here. We're almost at the end of our webinar today. This one is from Chase. Chase, if you'd like to ask Ellie direct, please just raise your hand or type back to me. I'll give you a few seconds here. If not, I can ask it for you, of course. Okay, so let me ask it. And then if I don't ask it correctly, or if you need more insight, then raise your hand and ask Ellie the question. But what value do you find in engaging an agency exclusively on a role versus multiple agencies?
Yeah, I see a lot of value in that. So, I think we always want to have a contingency. So I think, for me, a lot of times we've got a partner that we know would be really effective in a certain space, and we'd ask them to support that role from a recruiting standpoint. And then it'd be, you kind of have a right to refusal for a certain period of time before, if things aren't moving, right? And it's not necessarily because of our process or compensation or what have you, then we usually have, let's say, another partner that we'd ask for to come in and help. But exclusivity, is something that we want to get to because, yeah, again, I'd like whoever we're working with to feel really excited about partnering with Fortrea. Feel confident that if they do what they're supposed to do, they're going to be successful in making a placement and generating revenue for their company. So yeah, we don't have a lot of interest in, let's say, toss some chum into the water and see what the frenzy looks like, and if anything pops out of that, doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, you got a thumbs up for that. I don't know if you saw that, but
oh yeah. I mean, I think it makes it really hard too, because again, we want let's say our partners to get to know leaders, right? Understand the role, understand what's unique about it, and we need them to have that access, and we can't provide that access to 20 different companies to do 30-minute calls, right? Each with one of our hiring managers. So
yeah. So I saw a hand raised from Sabana. Hopefully I didn't mispronounce that, but Sabana, did you want to ask a question? Okay, it looked like somehow Sabana dropped off, but sorry, I don't mean to put anyone on the spot. But what advice, just in general for everyone as we close today's webinar, would you give to other TA folks or talent recruiting partners as we look into 2024?
Ooh. Yeah, I don't know if it would be like advice on how to work with us. I think just in general, I mean, the advice that I've been giving my team and some of my other colleagues is in terms of AI, right? And some of the really interesting tools that are out there, look into it. Going back to the comment of, yeah, folks feel like AI is going to take their jobs. In my opinion, if the people who don't learn how to use it in some capacity, like they're the ones who are going to struggle, to be successful and continue to add value. So, AI, there's a lot of fun stuff out there I play with, and I don't necessarily use for work. And then there's also lots of platforms, right, including Glider AI, that we are interested in because it can add value to our environment and how we assess talent. So that'd be a big piece for me is keep doing what you're doing, right? Build relationships, leverage new technology because it's not going anywhere. And appreciate the opportunity to talk today, Joseph.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you so much, Ellie. I learned a lot from you today, as I'm sure the audience did. Thanks for asking these questions. And of course, if anyone wants to follow up with Ellie, you can also reach out to me and I'll make an introduction. So this is our information here. You can visit glider.ai or just email me at joseph.cole@glider.ai. And then, of course, if you want to learn more about Fortrea, it's fortrea.com, is it, Ellie?
Yep, fortrea.com.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks again very much. And thank you everyone for joining us today. And we'll send you a recording of this.
Excellent. Thanks, Joseph.
Thank you.